And in that moment, I was like, "Oh my God, this is where I belong. Like, I don't have to hide anymore. I get to just be, and I'm surrounded by people who understand." And that, like, I'm gonna cry because that was such like a beautiful moment for me. It just made me realize that I was where I belonged.
Hey, gorgeous. How are you doing? Welcome back to another episode of Start Over and Rise. And this week I have an incredible guest for you. You're going to be meeting Alyssa. She is better known as the Florida Medium. And following a horrific car accident, she rethought her life and decided to change her career. This journey is full of wisdom, lots of fabulous nuggets. Here is Alyssa.
So, my name is Alyssa Chaccio. I'm located in Gainesville, Florida, and I am a psychic medium.
But, and I've been dying to say this to you, it wasn't always like that, was it?
It was not. No, I was a teacher for almost 10 years. And it wasn't until it was when COVID happened. COVID was such a traumatic event for everybody, right? And when they decided to have us go back to school, I that was like a turning point for me. I was miserable for the next like 3 or 4 years, like crying at least 3 times a day. Not just because of you know what was happening in the world. It was just the pressure, the stress, and then the change in the kids after COVID. Like they all just went through this terribly traumatic thing. Like they were all behind a little bit, and there was just a lot going on with administration and children. Um, and so for like 3 years, I was just miserable. And I have 4 kids of my own, so at some point, I was like, I think something needs to change.
What happened to change things for you?
Yeah, so it's actually, now that I'm saying it out loud, it's kind of funny because when COVID happened, that's also when I kind of just started. That's when sorry, when I finally found like the mentor that I've been with for the past 4 or 5 years. Um, I had a string of deaths in my family almost 10 years ago, and that kind of like led me on this journey of spirituality and leaning into mediumship and finally getting to the point where I found a mentor. So it's like COVID happened and then I found my mentor. And so those 3 or 4 years I was just completely miserable. I was also, learning this craft, learning this ability. And I think it was like the last year that I was teaching, my mentor was like, you need to get out of that. He was like, you need to leave, you need to get out of there. Like you're miserable, you can do this full time. Like you can do mediumship full time. And I was like, I was hemming and hawing about it. I was like, no, I can't. Like I got 4 kids. I got to make sure I have a consistent income. Like I can't leave my family in the dust. There's a lot riding on you when you're a parent of, a family of 6. So I was just, fighting against it and fighting against it and fighting against it. But it got to the point where even my husband was like, "You need to quit." He's like, "You need to leave."
What was it looking like for everyone then? Is it
It was terrible. It was because I would come home and I would come home and I would cry and I'd be stressed, and then I would lose it on the kids even though it wasn't their fault, but it was because like I had used up all my patience, you know, with the children at school, and I had none when I came home. And so like our home life wasn't good anymore. When I finally did like quit and work doing mediumship full time, um my daughter, she said to me, "Mom, are you going to teach anymore?" And I was like, "I don't think so. Are you okay with that?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Why? Why are you okay with that?" And she's like, "Because you're not tired all the time anymore." And I was like, "Oh, okay. So I did make a good choice."
yeah. Kids are great at that kind of thing, aren't they? They just speak the truth, don't they? They just say what they see, and sometimes we're not open to that ourselves, are we?
Right. No, not at all.
When you said, that you'd had a run of deaths in your family and that led you to exploring more of spirituality
Mhm.
and so on. Can I dive into that a little bit more?
Absolutely.
Because it's not a usual reaction, or maybe I'm underestimating this. I have interest in spirituality. I lost my mum 18 months ago, and it's definitely changed my thoughts on it.
Mhm.
But I have to say, it's not a usual thing for someone to go from a run of deaths in the family to getting a mentor. You must have felt you had a gift for this before
Oh, yeah.
you got to this point. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, definitely. So, I've had this since I was a kid. Like it wasn't new to me. I knew that this was something that I could do. My first experience with it, I had to have been like 7 or 8 years old. We had this family friend. Their kids would hang out with us. Our parents would hang out with their parents. We were really close, and then the whole family died. And I was told it was in a car accident. But I had the children come to me in a dream and like show me how they had actually passed, and it was patricide. So the father um killed the children, the wife, and then himself. And
Wow.
all of this I saw in a
Yeah.
dream. And so I woke up freaking out because I'm like 7 or 8 years old. This is not something I need to be seeing. And my dad's like, "Who told you this? Who told you?" Nobody told me. Like they had made sure we didn't watch any of the news. They made sure they didn't talk. Like I had no clue. I thought they had just like died in a car accident. But it was such a traumatic experience for me as an 8-year-old
Oh,
that I kind of was like, I don't know if I don't like this, you know?
I'm sure you didn't.
But it never went away. I would always have feelings if people were about to pass. I would know when they did, they would still come and visit me in dreams. And I'm not new to death. I've had a lot of deaths in my life. Not many of them were very close to me. They were like uncles or people, family friends, not super close. Um, and anyway, like I said, like it never really went away. But anytime I would talk about it, my family's like, "Don't, you can't talk about that. That's bad." Like, and we grew up Roman Catholic, so there was this very much like what's right and what's wrong, right? So most of my life, I grew up thinking like, okay, well, this is what this is must not be good. I just have to ignore it. Um, and then my husband and I moved down to Gainesville because I'm originally from New York. I met my husband in Savannah, Georgia, and then we ended up in Gainesville for my teaching job. In the first 6 months we were there, his dad died, my dad died, and then my stepdad died. And yeah, it was a really rough year for us. But like as like I said, after they passed, they would come and visit me in dreams, and my grief was so big. It was so big, and the only time I felt some reprieve was when they would come to me and talk to me. There was one dream I had, my stepdad's like, "Could you stop this, please? Like, you're good." And it's funny because like that's exactly what he would have said to me like in life. So it gave me this sense of peace, right? That they were still with me, maybe not in the way that I wanted them to be, but in a way that they could be.
Mm.
And I started thinking like, if this is helpful for me, if this is giving me some peace, maybe this could help other people too. And that was the switch for me because I've always been a giver. It's kind of why I love teaching because I really did love teaching. I loved the children. I loved helping the children. And this was just another avenue to be in service to others. And so that's where that switch happened, and I just kind of leaned into it and was like, "All right, guess we're going on this journey. Let's see where it takes me."
So you started having a mentor for this and you were still teaching. So what happened that made you jump from the teaching into a new career?
So like I said, like it was very stressful. My husband was like, "You just need to quit." My mentor was like, "You just need to quit," and I was like, I can't do that." Um, I went on a school field trip, and my daughter was in the car along with two of her friends, and we were driving home. I stopped in this line of cars. We're at a stop sign. All the cars in front of me had stopped. I was waiting for them to move, and this huge truck smashed into the back of my car. And so, it just was like a domino. I was the first one pushed into all the rest of them. And I remember all I could hear is the glass breaking and screaming, and I really thought that I was gonna turn around and all my children were just gonna be gone. Um,
Oh,
yeah, it was awful. Like, it took a lot for me to start driving again after that. Um, so everyone was fine. Like, I don't know how that happened. No injuries. Like, I looked around and the car was just like totaled, completely totaled. And I was like,
that's
I
amazing.
know. I was so grateful, but I was like, it was like one of those moments where, like, oh my God, my life could have been over. I really thought for a second, like, this is it. Like, this is my end. And after that experience, I was like, life is so precious and so short. Why do I want to keep being miserable? Why do why am I doing this to myself? I don't know when my end's going to come, but I want to make sure that I lived it to the fullest, or I did everything I know I could do to make it a good one for me. And so that was when I was like, okay, let's take this step. Let's see where it goes. And I feel so grateful because my husband has been so wonderful on this journey. Unfortunately, I still did have a moment of maybe I could just have a job somewhere else. And I think I was there 3 months. It did not last.
What was it that made you want to do that?
My husband and I, when we first like got together, um, our kids were really young, and we went through the stint of being really poor. Like to the point where the lights would get cut off, we weren't eating, so the kids were eating. And so I had this big fear of that happening again. Um, because I mean, now there was more people in the house. At that point, it was just the four of us, but now there were six, and now, I felt more pressure to not let that happen again. Um, and so I thought maybe like having this extra job, it would be fine. I mean, obviously it wasn't. I left 3 months later. Um, but when I left that job and I was finally like, this is it, like, I'm not going to go look for something else, I really had to sit with that fear for a while because my children aren't going to eat. I'm not going to be able to eat. Like, I really had to think, like, what's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario, we we lose our house, we go live with his mom. but but I had to like kind of remind myself, past Alyssa did what she needed to do. Past Alyssa got her family through this. Past Alyssa, like, she survived. And like she did before, she's going to survive again. But I don't have to worry about it as much now because I'm in a better place. Like, all this fear, it's okay to feel. Like, thank you, body, for helping me realize this is an intense situation, but I'm not in the place that we were 10 years ago. Um, Once I sat with that for a little while, I felt a lot better. I felt a lot more secure, um, in my decision and where we were as a family. Again, like I said, my husband has been a godsend, because we've been budgeting very well, and he does have a very good job. Um, so it was terrifying, but knowing that I was supported by him, knowing that, um, I did it before, I can do it again. It's not the same situation. I felt much better about moving forward and really like leaning into this.
Mm. It's incredible, isn't it, how powerful our brains are in
Yes.
terms of taking the time. And I'm such a champion for this because I think we live in such a fast world. We never take the time out to really dive into this stuff, and think about it. And I love that you said, I was able to say that this isn't the same situation. You almost had to have that conversation with your
Yeah.
brain so that you were then in that safe space to move forward.
hmm
So, what happened next?
I'm sure starting your own business is not easy. You're like, where am I going to get clients? Like, where is the money coming from? And there was a couple of months like I was kind of living off my savings and unemployment. Thank God for unemployment. Um, but there was 1 month, because I did still have a little bit of fear regarding money. Um, and there was 1 month where things were starting to get tight, and I was like, "All right, spirit, universe, whatever you want to be called, if this is really what you want me to do, if this is really what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm going to need you to help me out here because I still live in this physical 3D world and we need some cash." Um, and I'm going to tell you, it's wild. Things just started coming to me. Like, I got a check in the mail for an amount of money that was owed to me. Like, some opportunities came my way that I wasn't expecting. And it was the first moment in my adult life where I realized that I could really trust something bigger than myself, something outside of myself. I was an eldest daughter of a single parent. And so, I learned to always kind of like be in control, make sure everything's the way it's supposed to be. That way bad things don't happen, right? And that my dog's over here. And in that moment of like, I don't have to rely on just me. Oh my God, I broke down crying because I've never had an experience like that of, trusting something greater than myself. That was really an eye-opening experience. And then once I had that moment, I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep leaning into that. I'm just going to keep trusting. And it really was like a switch because once I said that out loud, once really felt that deeply, things started I know it sounds so crazy, but things just started coming into my path that helped me. Um, I got networking opportunities. I got other metaphysical shops to contract at. Clients started coming. I don't know where. I actually started working on TikTok, which has really helped like build my client base and my audience on social media. And it was crazy. Like everything started working for me. And I'm not saying it's easy. Like there have been months where I'm like, okay, like come on guys, help me out here, but there isn't as much fear anymore because I know that I can take care of myself, but I'm also taken care of by something bigger than me.
Something changed, right? By you saying, "Okay, if I'm meant to do this, start to make things happen." Did you feel a change in yourself?
Oh my god, yeah.
Can you talk through that a little bit?
It was like a relief. It felt like a relief. Like this weight was taken off of me and I really am trying to think like how to describe this. I I felt more safe in my own body. I felt more secure and where there was fear, there wasn't fear anymore, if that makes sense. Like that part of myself, that little piece of my heart that was, guarded, trying to take care of myself, trying to um, just working so hard for myself, it was kind of gone. And in that place was just like I keep saying trust, but that's what it is. Like it was trust that I was going to be safe and it not because I had to do it for myself.
I love this. I absolutely love this because I've been doing quite a few interviews recently. And there are two things that keep coming up, and they are such principles for me and what I do when I'm coaching. And it's like, I believe that when we do have that self trust or general trust, because I think the two go hand in hand. I think when you have self trust that you're on the right path, when you allow yourself to really believe in something that you want to be
Yeah.
doing, then I think you can almost trust that everything is going to work out. And it does change things. And safety is a word that keeps coming up. When we feel safe, when we have that sense of calm as well, we are so much better at making decisions with how we're going to move forward.
Mhm.
And the fact that you said, about suddenly opportunities were coming your way. And I think we as humans have opportunities coming our way all the time. It's whether we have that trust in ourselves and our trust that good things are coming, that we start to see these things. Does that make any
Right.
sense to you?
No, you're giving me chills like the way you're talking about it. That all sounds so right.
Oh, well, I'm glad. I'm glad. But yeah, so that's why I was really picking up on what you were saying there, because I think this is a really good message in the stories that are coming out. It's like we have to do that inner work, don't we? We have to do that work for ourselves. And it's
Mhm.
only us that can do that. But everything's taking off, and you're loving what you're doing now.
Oh my god, yes. I really feel so blessed. I feel so grateful that I get to do this. Like the when I was thinking about like what do I really want when I change my life? Like what is the goal for my life? And it was like I wanted to be happier at home. I wanted to be able to spend more time with my kids. I wanted more freedom. And it's given me all of that. Like, I get to pick my daughter up from the bus every day. If I wanna go do volunteer at her school, I get to do that. Like, if something needs to get done for them, I can be present, whereas before I couldn't be. Um, I have more patience, I'm happier, every and like I said, I get to help people in the worst moments of their life, and I get to give them peace and provide them some solace and peace and hope. Hope that there's still consciousness on the other side. Hope that their loved ones whom they might have seen suffering and, you know, not the way they would have ever wanted to see them, that their loved ones are better on the other side, that all that pain and hurt is gone and that they are at peace. Um so I really do love people and I love meeting people and I love hearing their stories and I feel so grateful every day that I get to do this.
I think that's absolutely fabulous. So when you think about the pre-COVID Alyssa and who you are now, what have been the the main changes within you?
Um wow. Yeah. 'Cause I don't think Alyssa 6 years ago would have even believed where she is now. Um, because Alyssa back then was angry and sad and, um, just kinda content with how things were, even if they weren't 100% perfect. And now Alyssa is not angry or sad. I mean, everybody has sad days, right? Like, that's just life. But like, I feel so much more at peace with myself. I feel so much more, like I'm where I belong, whereas before I didn't. I actually worked at a Catholic school. And so it was such a good feeling, like, that transition to leave because I felt like I could now be more of myself. Like, I had to hide myself before. I couldn't be my most original authentic self, and now I get to do that. I get to blossom and I get to just be more wholly me and it feels so good, you know?
Mm, mm. I often work with people, and I've been there myself. Oh my gosh, so many times where you get to a point and life has moved on. And I think particularly when you have children as well, when you have children as they get older and the dynamics of the family change and all sorts of different things, you can often be left with, who am I? And I used to, when you see TikToks, I love TikTok, when you see TikToks and things like that, and it's like, be you, just be you. And I used to be going, but I don't even know who that is. So when you say I get to be authentically me now, what was it that made you feel, yeah, I'm calm. This is me. I'm happy now.
That's actually funny that you say that because I can pinpoint a specific moment. um, I was, working at a Catholic school. There was a lot of parts of me that I had to hide because if I didn't, I would get fired. Um, and so I just, was kind of in the dark with all the things that I enjoy, all the things that I believe. And then once I left, I remember I was sitting at this meeting at the place that I contract, and I was surrounded by other people who, do some sort of metaphysical healing work. And we were discussing, you know, experiences or discussing how our modalities help people heal. And in that moment, I was like, oh my God, this is where I belong. Like, I don't have to hide anymore. I get to just be, and I'm surrounded by people who understand. And that, like, I'm gonna cry because that was such like, a beautiful moment for me. It just made me realize that I was where I belonged, you know? Mhm.
That's amazing. Yeah. I think that that sense of belonging, that's that's definitely where you think I'm really right in the right place at the right time. This is
Mhm.
who I, yeah, want to be. Can you recall the times when you had to do things that felt brave, that maybe, you needed to I knew you'd know.
I'm sure there's so many moments, right?
Yeah. I mean, things like, at that moment when you decided you were gonna leave your job, and let's face it, you were hanging on to that,
I was.
for so when you went in and resigned, for example, what did you have inside of you that helped you actually make that happen?
Um, Honestly, it was my husband, and knowing, like, it was gonna be okay. And because he told me, he's like, "Whatever your decision is, like, I'm gonna support you, we're gonna be okay." And so he gave me the bravery to finally step away from it. And I actually asked him, I was like, "Ryan, if I decide to just quit today and leave, would you be okay with that?" And he's like, "Yeah, definitely do it." And I actually did do it that day.
Yeah.
Um, but then, I can't get all of my strength from him. Like, there is a lot that he does give me, but there were other moments where I had to, find strength for myself, be brave for myself. Like, I am, believe it or not, I am a very introverted person. And, being the center of attention can be kind of hard for me. So having to, like, go to shops and talk to people and present myself to them and be like, "Hey, are you interested in having me work here for you?" Like, that was terrifying. But I was like, I have to do it, no matter how scared I am. If I want this to work, I have to go do these hard things. Or I did a talk at one of the networking communities I'm in. And again, when I was in college and did public speaking, every time in that class I had to do a talk, I cried afterwards because, again, I don't like the attention being on me. um, but I was like, I can't allow this fear to hold me back. And so I just did it, and I might have cried a little bit afterwards, but it doesn't matter. Like, it got done, and I had people come up after me afterwards and talk to me about it. Um, so what really drove the get over it was the we have to do it. If you want this to work, it was my want for it to work so bad that kind of overshadowed whatever the word is, the fear and the anxiety.
I always say your why needs to be bigger than your fear.
Oh, I like that. That's a good one.
When you understand why you want to be doing this, and even though it's scary, if that is bigger than the scary bit, then you will always find a way to break through it.
Mhm.
Your identity, how you actually saw yourself, to go from being a teacher in a Catholic school to being a self-employed medium, starting up a business. How did you sort of get comfortable with going from one thing to another? Was that a thing?
It felt like being in a dark place and stepping through a doorway, and suddenly everything was beautiful and there was lots of light. That was like how it felt for me, that transition. There's never been, like, that moment of I feel like I've had to change the way I look or change the way I talk or change the way I present myself. Because I feel like I went from one career of having to be professional to another career still having to be professional. And I'm not gonna lie, I think that, I'm gonna pat myself on the back a little bit here. I think that because I do present myself authentically, but also kind of grounded, like not too woo woo, um, it makes people feel safe to come to me, because this is something wild, right? Like, it's something that not a lot of people engage with, and it can be scary.
Mm,
um but I think that because, I like I said, I can be very grounded and I come off as myself, and I laugh a lot, so I think that I think that kind of helps them when it comes to the fear. So no, I don't think there was a big transition. I think it was just kind of like, how do I use what I already have and apply it to this situation now?
yeah, yeah, definitely. it's lovely when people suddenly go, "Oh my gosh, this is how it's
Yeah.
supposed to be. Like, what have I been
Well, like,
doing?"
when I came home, I could do my thing and be myself. It was just, like, in that one setting where, like, I couldn't. Like, I had to kinda hide some stuff or just not be a part like, not show that part of myself. So, it was nice to finally, like, be able to be myself all the time in any setting, you know? Yeah.
Absolutely. I really do. I very much resonate with that. Very much resonate there. If someone's listening to this and they're thinking, I don't want to do what I'm doing anymore. This is too miserable. I know I could be doing something else. What would your best advice be for them?
Oh, imagine how happy you're gonna be once you get through the things that are uncomfortable. That would be my advice. I think that sometimes we focus too much on what we're scared of and the things that are going to make it hard that we can't imagine how great it's going to be once we get through that. Um I don't know, do you do manifestation or do you like have you know anything about manifestation stuff?
So, yes, I do.
Well, the reason why I ask is cuz I do that. I don't like, sit and meditate on it, but every full moon and new moon, I would journal like what I wanted my life to be. And I would sit there and think about it and imagine it and feel it. And then I also believe in doing SMART goals, smart, specific, measurable, action, uh, realistic, and time bound. And so even though like I was doing manifestation, like thinking about what I wanted my end goal to be and how great it would be at that point, I still had my SMART goals that were, you know, make sure you put in the hours, make sure you practice, make sure you take care of your body, so on and so forth. And I think that, you know, feeling like I had these actionable things and then also imagining how great it was going to be once I got through it, I think that's what really helped too. And if you don't have that like endpoint of knowing how you're going to feel and what it's going to look like, it makes all the other stuff really hard.
And there was something you said right at the beginning, which was, um, you told yourself, "Well, I've done this before. I do it again." And just reminding ourselves that there are things that we have done hard things before and we have got through them, can really help as well. So, Alyssa, what is next?
I I don't know. Honestly, I'll tell you my end goal, my big goal for this is to be able to retire my husband. And so I'm figuring it out. It's only been a year since I've really been doing this full time. Um, but I want to continue building my client base. I want to figure out how to like create some passive income because, all of this is to help others and to help my husband not have to work anymore.
Yeah.
He self-publishes his own comic and then does graphic design work full time. So I want to be able to support him in his passion work the way that he supported me. So all of this is so that I eventually can retire him.
I love this. Can I have a little check in here? He
Yeah.
wants to be retired, yeah?
Yeah. He's always been like, if I c he would be like a stay-at-home dad. I don't have that in me. I'm not a stay-at-home mom. I love my kids so much, but I can't be with them all day. But he does. He could definitely be a stay-at-home, and he has wanted to do that for so long that I want to be able to give that to him.
Brilliant. I'm only saying that because I met a lady networking years ago who said, um, she wanted to retire her husband. And then I saw her a few weeks later and I was like, "How are you getting on with the retire?" And she said, "He said he doesn't want to be retired." And she realized
No.
that she'd been working towards this dream that actually he didn't want to do that. He was quite happy doing what he was doing. And I thought that was really quite amusing.
No, we're on the same page. He doesn't wanna work anymore. He just wants to do his art full time, and I would love to give that to him.
And I love that your vision of entrepreneurship as well is so, you're so far away from where you were. And I just think it's absolutely fantastic. So, Alyssa, thank you so much for sharing your Start Over MRI story with us. And I hope we can keep in touch.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.